if there's one thing we can agree on, it's that everyone's always been unified in their opinion about immigration. Am I right? Yes, I am. So, time to talk about immigration, but if it was in the 1800s. Yep, I don't know how to intro this, and I don't know if I need to intro this, so yeah, let's Ireland. Let's talk about Ireland.
One of the larger groups to be immigrating at the time were the Irish. The Irish had been having a pretty rough time recently, with over 2 of 8 million people being unemployed, and most of the rest depending on their potato farms to just barely get them through the year. Man, I sure am hungry. Good thing we've got potatoes to keep us going. I don't know what we'd do without them. So that wasn't great for the Irish. Their British overlords had long practiced a laissez-faire approach, or in other words, a hands-off kind of governance, and they weren't about to change that now. This meant that the British sent only minimal help over to Ireland, and so the only real options were either to leave or to starve. My family is dying of starvation, and I can't pay taxes because all the potatoes are dying. If only there was some place I could go. Some kind of land full of opportunities, maybe a place where I wouldn't need to learn a new language to be able to work. Got it. Australia. So over 2 million Irishmen left Ireland, travelling to the United States or Australia, with another 750,000 or so going to England.
However, not everyone who went to the Americas actually wanted to stay there. In 1858, 10 years after the majority of immigrants had already arrived, John O'Mahony decided he was done doing nothing and formed the Fenian Brotherhood. The Fenian Brotherhood acted as a supplier and resource collector for the Irish Republican Brotherhood back in Ireland, collecting money from its members and sending it overseas to help them. Both the IRB and the Fenians were strongly against British rule and would go on fighting against the British for the next 20 years. That wasn't the only thing the Fenian Brotherhood pursued, however. Ah man, we don't seem to be making too much progress over here in Ireland. Maybe we should find some place here in the Americas to call our own while we wait. Like Canada, since they're so unclaimed and all. Canada was not, in fact, unclaimed. To make matters worse, the increasingly large size of the Fenian Brotherhood meant they couldn't monitor every member, so British infiltrators became rampant, even among the very highest ranks. This meant that the British quickly found out about the plans to invade Canada and, together with the Americans, thwarted the Fenians on all 3 occasions of them trying. Not every member of the Fenian Brotherhood was on board with the invasion of Canada, though. The controversy of this decision led to increased infighting, eventually escalating into the entire organization fracturing into smaller and smaller factions until most of them were gone entirely by the 1870s. Now at this point, you might be wondering, what do the American people think about this? Well, I actually wondered that too, but it's not time for that yet, so let's talk about Germany instead. Much like the Irish, the Germans would come to the United States from Germany in large numbers, though their reasons were pretty different. From 1848 to 1849, there was a series of revolutions across Europe, which in Germany took the form of an attempted unification of the German state. That didn't work out too well. Kaiser Wilhelm, we would like if you could be the Kaiser of our new German state, please. I don't have to take anything from you peasants. But Kaiser Wilhelm, that would make you more powerful. I don't care. So yeah, the unification didn't work too well. As a result, Germans fled from Germany to other places in Europe or the United States, along with other participants in failed revolutions across Europe. These people became known as 48ers because, it happened in 1848. This seems pretty self-explanatory. Many of them would later go on to fight in the Civil War, demonstrating their abolitionist nature by, fighting for the abolitionist side. Again, seems self-explanatory. Alright, so back to what the American people thought, because this section turned out to be a lot shorter than I thought it would be, because there was a lot less to talk about than I thought there would be, so let's go. I'm kind of stretching this out, but, popular opinion, I guess. Let's go. Okay, quick side note, I was going to mention the Chinese immigrants, but that was in the 50s, which is kinda outside of my time range, I feel like, and also it wasn't on the list of things I was supposed to talk about, which of course means I'm not going to talk about it, because why would I ever do something I don't absolutely have to do, right? Right. So anyway, a large amount of the Irish and German immigrants were Catholics. Unfortunately, America was a pretty Protestant place around this time, and so most Americans kinda despised Catholics. Though up until this point it had been more of a quiet, in-the-background sort of hate, as there hadn't been too many Catholics to be hating. That all changed once immigration started, and more Catholics immigrated from other countries. The Irish especially became massive targets for anti-Catholic movements, in particular the Know Nothing Party. The Know Nothing Party, which was officially named the American Party, formed and came to power in the 1850s as a result of the explosion in anti-immigrant and anti-Catholic sentiment in the US. It was initially supposed to be a secret, with members saying that they knew nothing about it, hence the name. As the 1850s progressed, it grew in power and began to discard its secrecy, eventually growing to have 43 representatives in Congress. After 1856, though, the party fell apart due to disagreements over slavery, and after the Civil War, it was pretty much dead. The official platform of the Know Nothing Party stated that Americans must rule America, and to this end, native-born citizens should be selected for all state, federal, and municipal offices of government employment in preference to all others. Or, in other words, anyone who was born a citizen should have priority over people who were not born citizens. It also states that they are for an enforcement of the principles that no state or territory ought to admit others than citizens to the right of suffrage, or of holding political offices of the United States, or, again, enforcing the idea that only native-born citizens should be allowed to vote and hold political office. And finally, they also called for a change in the laws of naturalization, making a continued residence of 21 years of all not heretofore provided for an indispensable requisite for citizenship hereafter, and excluding all paupers and persons convicted of crime from landing upon our shores, but no interference with the vested rights of foreigners, or non-citizens have to live here for 21 years to become citizens, and any criminals are completely banned from landing on U.S. shores. The addition of the non-interference with the vested rights of foreigners part is rather nice, though, as it does mean, they do still allow foreigners to have human rights, which, that's nice. Don't know about those other things, but that's nice.